What's up, guys? This is Kanan, and today I am here with Gumi,
Hello.
Ted for Prez,
Hang on.
and Beej.
Howdy, howdy.
So today we are doing a what'll equivalent to a power ranking for the UGA. We're going to talk about the teams. We're going to talk about what we rated the teams and what we kind of expect from each one. So, without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump into it here and talk about what our rating scale was. So for me, when I'm looking at a team, I'm interested in speed control, type coverage, like immunity switches and things like that, as well as like sweepers and how easy those sweepers are to enable. What are you guys looking for?
Yeah. So for me, I'm a big fan of type cores. I think that type cores are great defensively. They're great offensively. So that's always been a priority for me. I also like redirection, fake out, and tailwind and trick room. Those are all great. And if you got weather there, definitely an extra bonus. So those are the main things for me.
For me, I'm basically looking at if the teams have offense, a little bit of offense, a little bit of defense, a little bit of support, just finding that good amount of balance for the team. I'm also looking for redirectors, um, those type of ones that will generally help the team out, and trick room ones. Those are my basic rules. I'm looking into the teams.
Yeah, I don't have a difference here compared to guys. I'll put redirection and fake out under ease of positioning just to be able to have a good presence in the game. And I rate weather and terrain a little bit higher, even if you can abuse it, just to be able to interrupt what your opponent about not.
Fair enough. Sounds like we're all fairly close on the same page there. Looking at all of our rankings beforehand, some of them we agree on, some of them we definitely don't. So
Yeah.
let's go ahead and let's jump into the first team here, and that is going to be the Middle Village P-Dubs. So for me, looking at this team, they've got a lot of good Pokemon. And they have, a Tailwind Setter, they have Fake Out, they have Trick Room, but they don't really have that many, like, dedicated sweepers. And the sweepers they do have, like, they don't have a great way to enable. So looking at it, like, they've got Gudra, but they don't have just a great way to, activate policy other than, like, Ice Shard or something like that from the Articuno. So to me, they just don't have quite enough offense, and their speed is kind of all over the place. So for me, I put them at number 13. I don't think it's a bad team. I just think it's missing a couple pieces. Ted, what do you think?
Well, for me, I had them at number 4. Uh, I think in the previous list, I think I had them slightly below, but I brought them back up just quite a bit. Even despite the lack of tailwind and some slight, some slight, no, like some slight decrease in redirectors there in the team. That type null is really interesting. Um, Not really serving the purpose as the same as Sil Valley, I would say, but type null. I think that type null will be key in this team. Really bulky with Light, many different support moves like Icy Wind, and Get Snarl, a bunch of other support moves that I could go into and talk about forever, but I'm not going to. But um, I think that's one of the main keys into this team. Um, Honestly, yeah, that's the only thing I can see with this team.
Okay.
He has support with Morgan, with screens, prankster, those general things.
He
Other
actually
than that,
dropped.
everything else.
He doesn't have Morgrim anymore. He
Oh,
dropped
okay. Well,
Morgrim for Articuno.
okay. Well,
Mhm.
yeah. If he still had Morgan, it's still pretty good. But other than that, all the mons are pretty generic.
Gotcha. Gumi, what do you think?
Yeah, I had him placed at number 12. I think I had him maybe a bit lower my first time around. I did like his trades though, specifically because he had 4 Dark type mons at the beginning, and I just think he has a lot of common weaknesses. Right? I mean, his team can drop a lot to fairies, um, his main sweepers are pretty much all dragon types. All weak to fair. Gudra and Urshifu. Um, and then I don't think he has a good way to enable Subtile. It's supposed to be a good Unburdenmon. And I just like yes, he has Type Affinity, but I don't think he has a great way to use it that well. And I think there are more valuable picks. I don't think his Firewater Grass Core was that strong. He doesn't have a Fantasy Core, so yeah, I think he has a workable team, but for me, it's really not that balanced, and so I'm on the lower side at number 12.
We agreed pretty much on that one. And Beach.
I've got him a little bit higher here at number 7. There's reasons why. He does have a very middle of the road team. I would say, like you guys have pointed out, very unsynthetic, very much a good stuffs kind of team build going on here. That being said, I think if
Stop.
the types, those screens could have helped play into that kind of strategy, or I mean, we've seen do all sorts of things for as long as it's been able to intimidate, fake out, and eat on out of there. So he's got a lot of staples, but like you guys have pointed out, he just isn't quite up there at the top, and he's not looking great in Trick Room. I feel like that's just an weakness to exploit in draft.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
think he's just either not quite fast enough or not quite slow enough on a lot of these.
Yeah.
Was kind of my critique on it as well there. So, um, all in all, yeah, we brought up a lot of the same points there on this team. Some of them, I think that there are some trades he could make that would really shore it up. But overall, we've got a 13 from me, a 4 from Ted, a 12 from Gumi, and a 7 from Beej. So we'll go ahead and jump to the next team here.
Ooh.
And that's going to be Rolled Gold. For me, looking at this team, I think it's pretty solid. I think that he started out really, really strong with Gmax Cinderace plus Thundurus, because I think those two together are really, really good. And I think Latios plays well into that. But from there, his Trick Room sweepers aren't quite as good as I feel like they could be. But really, he's got 3 or 4 mons that I think are really, really strong. So because of that, I put him a little higher. I put him at number 9. I think those 3 with the help of some Trick Room stuff could really carry him. Ted, what was your thoughts on this one?
After reconsidering a little bit on Gumi's team, I've just moved him down one slot to number 3. Like you said, his first pick in Gmax Cinderace, really good, really strong Firemon. I like that Rain Core with Thunderous Incarnate and Ludicolo. Um, Having Prankster is really beneficial, especially since Ludicolo has 2 really good abilities, Swift Swim and own tempo. Uh, Being able to swagger Ludicolo and not get that confusion, especially in Dynamax conditions, is really good. He has that redirection in Togepi, really bulky on with Eviolite. And that sock pick is really interesting. I've never used stock before, but I know how well it can be used. Being able to being being one of those victims that's been destroyed by stock before in the draft format. Um, as well as that Slowpoke was really interesting as well. Not so sure about that, but it's really interesting seeing Slowbro on the team. Um, those are just my main points on the team. Overall, really solid team, my
Gumi?
opinion.
Oh, sorry. Gumi, this is your team. What do you think?
Yeah, so at least for me, a lot of my goal was to get something that was comfortable for me. As I've said in the past, I'm a very formulaic drafter. I know what I want. I know what I think is good. I know what works for me. So, I mean, I don't think this is the strongest team by any means. I didn't even put myself in top 5 because I didn't feel like my team was that good. Um, but I do feel comfortable with this team. I like it. I understand a lot of what you guys are saying, but a lot of these were comfort picks for me. Right. So like Ludicolo, one of my favorite mons. Slowbro, one of my favorite mons. Um, and so yeah, I do think this is a good team. I like it, but yeah, for me it was more about, am I comfortable using this team, and am I going to be comfortable building with this team? And so, it's not the strongest team by any means, but I've started to feel a little bit more comfortable with this team. So I'm really excited to use it.
Awesome. Beej, what were your thoughts?
All right, so I have the rolled gold pretzels up at number 5. I think it's just because it does a lot of things pretty well. I don't think Gumi's out here doing anything the best per se. And it's Cinderace, Thundurus. We've talked about it. That is an incredibly potent offensive force right out the gate. Ludicolo is a good threat under rain, which we've established you can set up. Not only that, Purloin, keep that one, right?
Yeah.
You kept the Purloin. It also has Prank Rain Dance along with a few other going on for it there in the tier 4 slot.
Shut up.
Just got
Girls.
buried. That's super important in draft. I'll disagree with King of the Tulsa Drillbers here and say that I think your trick room is passable, if not incredibly strong. I think you're set up to at least some of the other coaches who have on heavy trick room. The only thing I'm going to ding you on here, I'm not a fan of Rage Power in draft formats. I think it's there for, so the Togepi to Tangela switch, I don't know, man. Feel free to prove me wrong.
Yeah, so I would like to address 2 things. First off, I forgot some of my trick room sleepers. So yeah, I do think my trick room could be a little bit stronger. And I do have some plans to work on that. But I am very comfortable with Drampa, and I'm very comfortable with Capraja. So I said for now I'm gonna work with what I think, but I think works, what I know works, and I do have plans to make trades in the future. So yeah, I 100%. I do kind of agree with you on that, King, but I do think it's still a solid trick room mode. And the thing for Togepi was I was using it in another draft league, and I didn't like it. I just felt like he was a bit too passive. And I do have Tingla in another draft league where it has 100 base special attack Leaf Storms coming out.
Yeah.
It's got Sleep Powders. I totally understand Rage Powder, and that's why I originally got Togepi. But after experimenting with it, I was just like, this isn't my play style. This isn't what I'm going for. So I totally understand that, and I've thought about that. I wanted to get Togetic, but because I had already drafted Thundurus and Cinderace, I was like, that makes me too rock weak.
Stop.
So yeah, I totally understand that.
Dolly!
And I really do appreciate those comments.
Yeah, this draft was oaked.
Yeah.
At least it seemed that way for a lot of our coaches.
Yeah. And talking about back to Tangela, I've used Tangela before. I love Tangela. I thought that was a great pick. It's bulky. It's got good attacks. I think it's a great mod. I think that was a great pick.
I've used its evolution actually in doubles before.
Nice.
Even though it doesn't have it doesn't have UV light, it's still pretty bulky.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. Well, let's jump on to the next one here, and that's going to be the Kentucky Wild Bolts. We were kind of all over the place on this one as far as our reviews.
Yeah, you guys don't know Goomer like we do.
I've never played anybody in this league besides Qdelis. So, looking at the team, there's not really much that stands out to me. He's got a little bit of offense with the the Salamence and the Raikou, the Cobalion, but the Tapu Bulu, not a pick that I really care for. He's got Rain, which is great, but the only thing he's really got that takes advantage of it is the Golduck, so doesn't really have a great way to set up the Cobalion except for, I guess, the Salazzle. To me, it just didn't have enough going for it. I put it pretty low. I've got it at 15, just because I really didn't feel like it had much synergy. Ted, very disagreed with me on that. What did you have?
Yeah. Before I had him at number 9, but then I moved up one spot to number 8. Um, Obviously, there's some lacking in some parts of his team, but I think overall, his team is very strong, especially with Tapu Bulu sitting up terrain each time going out. Now I know it's not really the best, bulkiest mon, but it definitely is going to hit really hard if it gets the opportunity to. Golduck definitely interesting. Getting Cloud9 to stop weather, especially in draft where uh, weather is pretty prominent. Um, Cinder Scorch is really interesting. I'm not so sure how that work out. Maybe Flash Fire or White Smoke maybe come in handy if he wants to set up Cinder Scorch and prevent from the stat drops. Maybe Flash Fire to absorb those fire moves. I don't know. Um, but overall, I think his team is really strong.
All right, Gumi.
Yeah, so this was the only team where I had to rank higher because of bias and player skill. Um, and I do think he has a good team. But the way I know Goomer is he is what I call a team building madman, a team building scientist, where he goes into his team builder on Showdown and he makes the wackiest things that work with the wackiest mods. And so I see some of that synergy with this team. And it still has the cores that I like. It's still got a lot of options which I like. But I think it also has his mark on it, and I'm very scared of his mark. So yeah, so I do think he has a good team. I do genuinely think that this is something that can work. I do think it's a good team, but there's also that little bit of I know Goomer that kind of made me put it a bit higher.
Fair enough. So sounds like y'all both ranked this one a little bit higher because of player skill. Beej, what did you
Yeah.
have?
I got him a little bit at the middle of the pack here at number 9 based on team. This is my first season with UGA. I've been in US previously, so I'm still a bit new to the drafting format in general, but taking a swing at it. A lot of the things that I'm looking at are what is most feared lead that they could bring out. I think just a solid offensive front start out with is Kobali and Salamence. They just cover each other so well. He can bring things in the back to help cover them. All of his mons stand pretty well on their own. If we looked out with the Middle Village P-Dubs, not a ton of synergy until you look a little bit deeper. I started going through some of these things, and I think we might be onto a little bit. I'm talking, you got beat up Kobalion. That's something we've seen before. What about beat up Sudowoodo? Because it gets the rattled ability, so you are outspeeding things, take people by surprise, hopefully, if I'm not spoiling anything for anyone. And just some other neat little interaction along with a pretty solid team. That being said, and you guys are going to hear me say this a lot for a lot of the teams we're talking about, if they can trick room you and kill you, I feel like that's just a step in drafting. I'm not sitting here trying to go hard trick room, but if you're only on under base 60, it looks like is Sudowoodo, I feel like you're just in a rough place.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought too. Player skill taken into account, I understand. We'll just all agree to disagree on this one until we see it in action. So let's go ahead and jump to the next one here. And that's going to be the Tampa Bay Frightening. This is another one that some of us were pretty divided on. So for me, looking at it here, the Talonflame is, good to set Tailwind, but after that, there's it's kind of hit and miss. The best offense that it looks like they've got is going to be from the Heatran and potentially the Virizion, maybe Guzzlord, depending. But those are all kind of middling speeds. So they're going to rely on getting the Tailwind up with the Talonflame, or their Trick Room mode doesn't look terrible. They've got the Reuniclus and the Vikavolt. And maybe the Guzzlord, but after that, not a whole lot. So I think it's pretty middling. I don't think it's bad by any means. I think they've got some options. I put them at number 12, just because I didn't feel like they had quite enough sweepers to do enough damage to win some big games. So Ted, what do you think? Ted? We'll skip over Ted. Gumi, what do you think?
Sorry about that.
I think that for me, I didn't like the team in. So I put them at 14, I think. And
13,
one of the things that really put me off was their Trick Room mode. Because I feel like they have a lot of Pokemon that are really weak, like Guzzlord, that just dies to a Fairy type move.
Do you want to put this fan on?
And then at the same time, his Trick Room Pokemon aren't even that slow. And so I feel like his Trick Room has a lot of good sweepers, has a lot of good has some good sweepers, has some good setters, but like it's just not that strong because it's slow and it's very frail. And I think his faster mode as well. I just don't think it's that strong. So I had him pretty low. I just don't think it's a versatile team. So
Ted, are you back? All right, Beej, what do you have?
I've got Tampa Bay down at 14, and I will go ahead and, especially here in the lower picks I have, there's not a wiggle room, a ton of gaps. A lot of these drafts look solid. I'll say that the pick room, while not the best in the world, is close to passable. I like Reuniclus a lot. I think a lot of chops, draft especially. On Flame gives him at least a little bit of a fast mode, even though it's frail. Not one of my favorite ones in the world to work with. Just a lot of kind of strange picks. That might have been the nature of our draft or secret text that I don't know, but things here like Dragonair, all while they've got their youth. Intimidate's always going to be good. They're just I don't know. This might be my personal bias.
No, I think we
Let's also point out.
I think we all agreed pretty well on this one. We all had them within a couple picks of each other. So
Yeah, there's just something about seeing so many 4x weaknesses on a team that makes my stomach turn a little bit. Just put that feeling.
I agree with that. Ted, are you back? We may have lost Ted. All right, so I guess we'll just go ahead and jump to the next one here. And that's going to be the Ezer Ishgardian Suicunes. So this one is another one that I put them fairly low just because everything on their team is pretty fast. They don't really have any way of denying Trick Room. And while they have some really good Mons in, Garchomp, G-Max Rillaboom, Suicune, they don't really have much beyond that. Their top 4 there are pretty good, and after that it just kind of falls off. They don't really have anything slow to play in Trick Room at all, and they don't really have a great way of denying it, except for maybe with Mimikyu. That'd be about it. So I think they've got good sweepers. I don't think they have a great way of enabling them. Ted, are you back yet?
Yeah.
Cool. What do you have on this one?
Honestly, this is one of the teams I rated a little bit higher, at number 7, I believe. Really good offense and Rillaboom, Suicune, hard hitting Mons, some Intimidate support with Torracat, Fake Out, Burning Shot. And Darkloak, it's also a support mon, like a beat up. Suicune is also good support. Um, Wish has still got Tailwind, doesn't. But has interesting with Icy Wind. Yeah, other than that, this team is overall really solid. Just wishing that it could get some redirection. Maybe would be really good on this team. Other than that, pretty solid.
Gumi.
Yeah, so I think my main problem is just kind of the anti synergy on his team.
Yep.
So for one, he has Rillaboom Gmax and a mon like Garchomp that could really benefit from using Earthquakes. And then he only has one Levitate mon, which is like, okay, I guess. But then one of his main mons is Tapu Koko. He also has Manectric there, steal some life from Tapu Koko, and then his Earthquakes still aren't doing that much damage, and neither are any of his ground type moves. And then his Trick Room isn't that strong at all. So I just didn't feel like it had a lot of synergy, and I felt like it had more anti synergy than synergy. So that's something that just really brought this team down. I mean, he has Coco and Rillaboom. It's like it's just really hard for me to justify putting this team that high. And then at the same time, I don't think it's a versatile team either. So
Gumi, can I butt in first? 1 quick second.
Sure.
You're forgetting about Tapu Koko's inability telepathy, which ignores Garchomp's Earthquake and could technically discharge
into
you.
Telepathy, Coco.
Yeah.
Like
I've seen it multiple times before. It's really powerful.
And I get that, and that's one option.
Yeah,
but
I just don't think they have any speed control. That's the biggest thing that
yeah, I mean, they have Suicune for Tailwind, which is okay. And then they have a TR sitter, but first off, it's a fast TR sitter, and they have nothing to go into TR. So
I agree completely. Beej, what do you think?
I've got the Suicunes down at 15. You guys have said, there's some solid mons on this. Don't look at things like Rillaboom and Tapu Koko and Garchomp and say, oh, that's bad. There's just a lot of things that don't want to work together. And you're sitting here just doubling and tripling up on types when you have many opportunities to diversify. Got some, I'm not going to call it cheap because it's one many games. But you've got strategies like Discquake and stuff that you can set up. I don't know though. It just seems like this is a little bit one note.
Yeah,
and it's also falling into the problem of a lot of its mons just being middling speed. I don't know how that's going to end up working. It might be one of those teams where just power through despite it, but I've just not seen it often.
Yeah, completely agreed.
Let's go ahead and go to the next one here. The Maryland Magnemites. This is a good team. I think it's got a lot of really good parts. I mean, Metagross next to Whimsicott is going to be really good. I mean, Tornadus Metagross was a staple in Series 7 for a reason. Combine that with Darmanitan, that's going to hit hard. You've got good redirection in Togetic. You've got Audino as your Trick Room setter, and you've got some things that play in it well, like the Lycanroc and the Swampert. I'm a huge fan of Swampert personally. I've used that in draft before. It's a fantastic mon. Add in that you can get some, good work out of the Spectrier, and I think this is a great team. I've got them ranked fairly high. I've got them at number 5, just because there's a couple things that I don't love. The Gmax Pikachu, the Alolan Executors, kind of a weird pick to me. But other than that, I think this is a great team. Ted.
This is one of the teams I had really low at number 15.
Yeah.
Just because there's several weird picks to me.
Did we lose you? I'm sorry. Hello.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
So some of the weird picks, Pikachu and Spectre, I feel like Spectre, even though it's good in doubles, I've seen it in the horse teams with Glacier and Spectre. However, I feel like Spectre is more of a singles mon to me, just due from experience. Now I know it can be good in doubles. I just said it's vastly inferior than to Glacier. So it's just one of the awkward picks, as well as Genius Pikachu. Pikachu is one of the less bulkiest mons in the world. It may just live a hit with just with Focus Sash on it, but other than that, it just dies. Um, yeah, and due to those reasons, I feel like those this team is fairly low on my list, even though it's most of team's mon is really good.
Gumi, what did you think?
So I had them ranked fairly high at number 4, one of my top 5 teams. I disagree with you. Said I think Spectre is great, and I think it's great on this team, especially with Metagross. The reason it's not higher, and I'll start with this because I do like this type of constructive criticism, is I wish he had a stronger trick room mode. I personally love Alolan Executor. I've used it in draft. It's been spot on. But the problem with it is you have to have other mons that can sweep in Trick Room and also set Trick Room. Alolan Executor as a solo sweeper and setter is not reliable at all. I personally would suggest getting rid of Sneasel and Audino for something more reliable, either more reliable sweeper and setter, or something of that mix.
Audino can set as well.
And also I love the Togetic pick on this team. It's so good because you have mons like Pikachu G-Max that are frail, but you have that levitating Togetic, right? That flying type. So you don't have to worry about ground type moves. Same with Metagross. Even things like Swampert. Swampert's biggest weakness, obviously a grass type. But with Togetic, no grass type is going to be able to get past that because of its flying type. It's just a lot of these picks just feel so right. So I really like this team. I have it really high. As I said, I do think there's a couple things that they can fix, but this is definitely going to be a team I'm prepping for, something that I'll be scared to play.
Yep. Beach.
All right. So if you need proof that I'm trying not, this is played against the Maryland Magnemites in previously. I have been destroyed by Spectre and Metagross. I've got them down here at number 8 for a. But first off, solid team. Whimsicott, Spectre, and Metagross. Oh, they are so nice together. I'll just go ahead and shout out Spectre in doubles because for such a frail looking mon, you can get it bulked up pretty well. Type resist Berry with Bulldoze and Snarl, Will-O-Wisp. They support super well, especially to set up a Metagross, which I see this team doing a lot. It just seems incredibly top heavy. Like some of these lower picks that you guys were pointing out, Pikachu, I don't really see often. The Sneasel, maybe occasionally as a situation. I'd know an Executor not doing the best Trick Room impressions here. I have no clue what Lycanroc Midnight can do or can't do. Yeah, I think the top half of the fantastic and it's going to do what it needs to. But Trick Room's looking weak. There's not going to be a whole lot of variation throughout this. Looks like.
Yeah. On the Lycanroc pick there, it's got Tough Claws and it's got a fairly high attack stat. So for a tier 4, I think it's a pretty good pick.
It's going to hit things.
Oh yeah, that's all it's going to do, but it's going to hit them fairly hard. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like I said, I think this is a pretty good team. So, y'all have good points on it there too. So we'll go ahead. Let's jump to the next one. Alif, I'm not sure. Axius. To me, this team is very, very, very good. I have this team at number 3. I think that they have got several really strong modes. Comfy next to Galar Moltres is fantastic. Obviously, Sun plus Gmax Venusaur has proven itself time and time again. Super good. You've got what's his name? Meowstick, with Prankster to set screens and things like that. He can set Trick Room. Comfy can set Trick Room, and they've got good Trick Room Mons in Aggron and Golurk, as well as really good support from the Meowstick, the Lopunny, and the I love the Milotic pick. I wanted Milotic for my team, so I think this team's fantastic. I've got them at number 3. I expect them to be very difficult to prep for, just because you don't know what mode they're going to be bringing. Ted.
This team, I had them at number 6. Really interesting with Comfy and Moltres. I've been destroyed several times by that combo before. Like you mentioned, that 9 kills in Venusaur combo with Drought and um, really strong as well. Now that Golurk, I like that Golurk pick. I like my tier 3 picks. Golurk is definitely one of those ones that you can sleep on. Has a decent attack stat that can hit pretty hard. My Milotic, definitely a really bulky water. It was actually one of those mons that it was on my top priority list. Didn't manage to get it, but again, really those good ones. And Scraggy, another good support with Intimidate, getting that fake out priority is really good. Yeah, I think overall around, this team is one of the better teams in the Sinnoh conference.
Agreed. Gumi.
So I had them ranked pretty low at first, but after seeing your guys' rankings, I decided to take another look. And so I put them higher. They're at number 8, I believe, as it stands. For me. So I think my problem is actually mainly their Trick Room. And I know you disagree, Ken, but I mean, I just don't like Agmon and Golurk as your sweepers. It just doesn't sound. And I mean, you have Girder too, but like those are just not reliable mons that I feel go good on a for a Trick Room mode. So I'm not really a huge fan of that. I like the Scraggy pick a lot. I think that's one of the one of the best slow tiers you can actually get. So I like that. I like Milotic, and I like their top 4 mons. But I'm not sold on Lopunny, not sold on Aggron, not sold on Golurk, not sold on Girder, and I'm also not sold on Meowstick Male. I'm sold. I like Mentos a lot, but there's just a lot of mons I'm not sure about. And he obviously has good synergy, but I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on this team, so I'm smack dab in the middle.
Fair enough. Beach.
So I'm going to take a moment here to vent a little bit about snagging and sniping of that Scraggy that wasn't even on the team. Oh, it's such a good pick. It has base 70 defenses, holds an Eli, and does the Incineroar thing. But anyway, I've got Axie at number 4. I think they are going to be one of the hardest at 4. Trick Room, I'm not the most impressed with it. I love Aggron. It's not the slowest thing in the world, but it's going to live a hit at 30. And it's just going to smack around whatever is still on the field after it.
I'm running
we've
it up
seen
my
Venus.
Teams can confirm.
We've seen Venusaur do crazy things already. Comfy Moltres, I think Comfy is hard to interact with. I will say, on Moltres in draft leagues before, it is one of the threats to prep for. Doesn't get a whole lot of coverage, but what it does well. If you're weak to it, you're going to die to it. Worth noting with the Meowstick, it's a prankster in prison. So denying Trick Room if you need it is going to happen. So I'm a big fan. Their speaking control is looking pretty sweet. They've got weather to fight over that. They can max and fight over the terrain if they. It's just solid overall.
Yep, I agree. All right, let's take a look at the next one here. That's going to be the Lake Erie Wishy-Washies. looking at the team here, I just don't think they have enough offense. Is my biggest critique of this team here. Yeah, Togetic can be offensive. Typically, you look at it as defensive, but can definitely be offensive. You've got the Rillaboom, you've got the Urshifu. But other than that, I think they lead a little too hard into kind of the support flex stuff. I could be proven wrong here, but to me, I don't think that they have enough sweepers. So I've got them at 11 on mine. Ted, what do you think?
So in these last couple of ratings in my list, it was really hard to choose between where to place the teams in. This is one of those teams. And like again, like you said, there's a lot of things that this team could use and would definitely need to become better. And so I placed them at number 16 actually, at the lowest team in my tier list due to the fact that he doesn't really have a reliable trick room setter. Now, Jellicent can be really good. Don't get me wrong about that. With Water Spout, gets Willis.
Real quick, he dropped Jellicent for Cofagrigus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, Cofagrigus is bulky, pretty good, but it's really slow, and you're going to have to find a way to get around the other fast ones that have a chance to OHKO it. So, with basically the same thing as Jellicent, not really reliable trick room setter, even though it's really bulky and can survive a couple of hits. I just don't see it surviving that many hits. Now with the rest of his team, he has hardening attackers in Rillaboom and Urshifu. Those definitely can do damage. Redirector with Togekiss, really good. Support in Raichu and the Cryogonal, and as well as the Slowking being his bulky Watermon. Garbo to Gmax, really interesting. I could see possibly maybe pairing it up with Urshifu to activate the weak armor, and again, it would lower its defense and raise its speed, but I think that's something they may go into. So, other than that, I think this team could use a little bit more support and maybe a little bit more offense. But yeah, that's all I have to say about this team.
That was a lot of praise for the team you have as your lowest pick.
Yeah, it's just really hard.
Gumi.
Yeah, so I will say, first off, I do like his trades. I felt like a lot of his team had some just weird synergy with it. I didn't like that he had 3 water types. I didn't like that he had 3 water types in the Storm Drain setter. And I just didn't feel like he was a very versatile team, which is why I have like my criteria and stuff. So I think he has some good things. I really do like his trades. I think trades are the way to go if you have, one of the weaker teams here. And so I really do think that he had a good trade. And I think he has some potential, but there's just a lot of things that I don't feel like match up. So, but Cofagrigus over Jellicent, I'd take any day, especially on this team comp.
Fair enough. Beach.
Alright, so looks like we've got a little bit to continue. I've got the wishy-washies at number 3. I really like this team. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail as to why. If you are worried about a weak crew mode, look no further than Wishy-Washy. Over here in the dock, it's got its base speed at 40. That does drop to 30 whenever it's schooled and whenever it's important and big and scary. Thing is a monster if you can support it well. Having Wishy-Washy Raichu has been excellent. Wishy-Washy with Togekiss for redirection is fantastic. Cradily, also as a tier 3 mon, can be set up as a sweeper. He's not sitting there with Storm Drain to protect any of his mons. He's sitting there with Storm Drain to be next to something surfing and boosting its special attack. Really solid typing. I'm a big fan of Cradily in draft here. I think Trick Room might be a little bit easier to set. Throw out Cofagrigus with, say, Rillaboom. fake out something, and Fabregas isn't getting faked out, and you've got Trick Room up. Out Cofagrigus next to Togekiss, follow me the threats and taunts away, and boom, you have Trick Room up. So if he really needs to get into it, I think he's got some options. To be honest, the Garbodor, I don't know if we're going to end up seeing it come unless he really needs to get into some fairy types, but it's there to get him a few more points for his other solid picks. Boom, solid offense, gliding into things kills him sometimes. Diagonal as his tier 4 pick, it's solid. A lot of people run a lot of ice runs and ends up happening. It's nice to have that coverage. Here is going to be on some good support. You throw an Eviolite on it, and it's intimidating and thrilling. And it's just doing a lot of minimizing of damage. I think this team has chops. If it gets played well, I think it has a little bit of game against a lot of other coaches.
Fair enough. We'll agree to disagree on this one.
Absolutely.
Let's take a look at the next one here. We have got the LA Linoons. This is another one that a lot of us didn't necessarily agree on. I've got them at number 6. I think it's a good team. Wheezing Gigas is hard to play against. And they've also got Cottony Gigas that they can set it up that way as well. My only complaint with it is they don't have a ton past that. They've got Alecki, which is good. Pincurchin to set Electric Terrain for it, I guess, for Rising Voltage. But that just really seems to be their only 2 main modes to me. So because of that, I didn't put them higher, even though, Gigas is terrifying. So that's what I think on this one. Ted, where are you at?
Now, according to my understanding, they were the champions of the Sinnoh League from the Sinnoh Conference last season. And looking at this team, really strong. I can see definitely a lot from this team. So I put them at the number 1 spot on my list. Due to that, this is gonna sound really funny, but this guy has Quagsire, really really good mon. I've been destroyed by it many times in both formats. Both really bulky mon. Having access to a lot of support moves in Toxic. Yeah, being one of its many greater moves. Can also be running an offensive set with Curse and Scald, just setting up that Curse to be bulky and taking all those hits minus the grass type moves. And again, in his other moves, having Regigigas and Cottony as well with Wheezing, having 2 different options depending on the week. You can either bring Cottony or Wheezing depending on the matchup. And again, Gigas being really hard to work around. You're gonna have to actually think a lot about what's your plan of attack on Gigas. So better be looking out for that. Regilucky, again, one of the fastest mons in the format. One of the stronger support moms, getting screens, getting Thunder Cage, a lot of electric moves. Even though it gets walled by ground types, I think his team can cover for that weakness, and as well as a really good trick room option in Porygon 2. Have slapping on that Eviolite, making it extremely bulky, allowing it to survive a couple hits, and setting up that trick room for its teammates. And his GMAX Picatoleon, it's really interesting. I've never used Inteleon GMAX, but from what I've seen, I think it can do some work. Not just as a support set, but I think it can run a fairly offensive set. You can probably run Focus Sash to survive 1 hit and dish out a massive amount of damage. So yeah, I think overall this team is really good. I think it has a good amount. The team can have a good amount of success.
I didn't realize he was the winner from last time. That may shift it a little bit, but Gumi, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked with AJ a lot. He clearly has a lot of knowledge about the game. He's clearly a good player. I just didn't feel his team lined up that great. I mean, there are some really good stuff. I think Pinkirch and Reggie Eliki might go under some people's nose. That's a really scary combo, especially if you don't have a ground type. He's got some good stuff. I'm not a huge fan that he got such a high trick room setter, but then prioritize trick room almost none. Like he has Pinkirchen and he has Grap Locked, and that's pretty much it. And so like if you're getting a mon like Porygon 2, it's kinda like why are you getting just two low tier trick room sweepers? So not a fan of that. I like using Regigigas. I mean obviously that's great. So I think he has some stuff to work with. But even then, there's not a lot of versatility in Weezing Regigigas. I like Cottony Regigigas. That also seems pretty cool. But it just doesn't line up for me. Like I think it's a good team. I think it has some stuff it can work with. So I put it like number 10, I think. But it just doesn't, the pieces don't fit for me.
Fair enough. Beach.
I have issues with Weezing Gigas in draft. I think it's a lot of moving pieces that you have to be sure are working together to get the payoff of Regigigas. Sometimes it's going to be worth it, and he's going to sweep through a team. It might be me later. We don't have a schedule yet. I will eat my words when it comes. But you look at the team here, there's just not enough type diversity here for him. Sitting here with Gigas, Porygon 2, and Indeedee that are normal types, you get to capitalize on just a little bit. Got those double electrics coming out. No real way to stop a ground type effectively, looks like, outside of Gigas Ice Punch or Porygon Ice Beam. No, I think I just agree that there's a little bit lacking for me.
Fair
Good
enough.
stuff that's going on, but
Gotcha. I agree with that. Let's go ahead and let's jump to the next one here. And that is going to be the Texas Toad Frogs and Qdella. I've played against Qdella in a couple different draft leagues. We had to play each other twice in the same season because we met again in playoffs, so that was fun. Cool dude. I like his team. I've got him at number 7 just because he's got some good picks. Landorus is always going to be good with Intimidate and things like that. Latias, I think, is good to be able to set Trick Room and Tailwind. I'm having trouble talking, sorry. I'm a big fan of Kangaskhan. As far as how his Mons play together, though, I don't know. Primarina is okay, but kind of middle of the road as far as speed goes. Celesteela is bulky, but is able to be played around, especially if you know it's coming. Not a fan of Magmortar at all. Silvally is another one I'm just not a fan of. So I put him a little higher than what I could have just because I know he's a good player and I know he's going to make use of this team. But overall, his stuff doesn't play together quite as well as I would like it to. Ted, how did you have him?
I had him fairly high at him at number 5. I've not played against Goodell before. However, I've watched his videos. I've seen his breakdowns on drafts, and I respect him in a way that to rank him, decently high. Now with his team, he's really interesting. Like you mentioned, he has Landorus T with Intimidate to lower opposing one's physical attack. Latias, strong support Mon, having Tailwinds. Gets Icy Wind, I believe. Not so sure about that. But I feel like utilizing Tailwind a lot is going to be his main difference maker in most matches. Again, with Silvally, have 95 in all base stats. Even though it's very low, it's decent enough to support this team, having running shot, icy wind, snarl, those moves, the getting that speed control and lowering special and physical attack. Zoroark, uh, in his in one of his low tier picks, really interesting. Um, I never particularly really use illusion. I feel like this is one of his less stronger picks. I feel like he could get something else from tier 3 that could support his team. But again, I'm not so sure how he's going to utilize that as Zoroark. Same with Marina, I feel like is one of those odd one out Pokemon. Um, I don't feel like it's going to do a lot of work in this team. However, I think slapping on specs and dishing out hyper voice can do a lot of damage. Celesteela, I have a big soft spot in my heart for Celesteela. Having beast boost to raise its defense, special defense, or special attack, I could see. Um, Even slapping on a weakness policy uh, to boost its attack or special attack and use it that way in Dynamax. Again, I think he has one of the stronger teams in the Sinnoh Conference, and like I said before, I could definitely see him making playoffs if he plays his cards right.
All right, Gumi.
Yeah, I mean, I've never played against Kudella, but I do think he has a really good team. For me, I'm a big fan of type cores, and so when I see a Silvally, I'm rejoicing. I think this is a great team. Has a lot of good stuff. I mean, even without Silvally, he's still got fantasy. He's still got Firewire Grass. I really like that. I think Celesteel's a great pick. He also just has a lot of solid picks. Like going down, Machamp can be solid pick. Landorus solid. Latias solid. Silvally solid. Kangaskhan solid. Zoroark solid. Rotom solid. Primarina solid. Gorai solid. Celesteela solid. Magmortar, but can still do work. So I just think he has a really solid, balanced team that can do a lot. I do feel like I would wish he has a stronger Trick Room mode. I'm not super happy about just Gourgeist, potentially Magmortar, Primarina, and Machamp. So personally, would like that. But other than that, I still think he has a great team. I put him at number 3. So really excited to see what his team can do.
Cool deal. Beach.
All right, so I've got our generous moderator here. I'm going to start with the bad before I get to the good. And there is good. Absolutely. All of your points into consideration. First, very Trick Room week. Talking Magmortar, his base speed is going to be 80. Lowest base speed we're getting, I think, is the big old Gourgeist. I think that gets down to about 55, and a real fantastic to deny it under. So if your opponent's able to set up Trick Room, again, I'm gonna nitpick on it, but it's an issue for me in Draft League if there's one thing upend most of your team. Then we'll talk about the positioning I had mentioned before. There's a real way to redirect. I believe he has one fake out user in Kangaskhan, which I do love, by the way. That's a lot of pressure on 1-3 mon to help set up if need. Let's get to the good. Every mon. I think every mon on this team by itself. Mortar is, I think it can do work, just like Gumi said. Everything else is just solidly good on its own. Rourke is a little underestimated. Always think of Illusion. Get that it's just a good special sweeper with decent coverage. There's some really fun things you can do if you go Gourgeist Kangaskhan, because do you know what hits a normal ghost type well? Nothing. You just Gourgeist Trick or Treat and have fun with that. And then Landorus Therian. I mean, it does what it does. People forever. I think he picked up one of the best low tier Gmaps that have been introduced this season. Champ, it's things, his weaknesses, all of those type cores like he was talking about before. He's just solid overall, but there's just not enough synergy and wearing weak for me. So he ended up getting knocked down a little bit further, honestly, than I could have anticipated.
Fair enough. Let's take a look at the next one. Beej, I believe your team is next here. The California Crowbats. I think this is a pretty good team. I've got it at number 8. The water, the rain with Kingdra, it's definitely scary. Bronzong setting Trick Room for the Mudsdale, also very scary. Tailwind next to Serena or Rotom Heat can be very good. I think the only reason I put it down a little lower than I would have is just because I feel like the speeds on most of them are just kind of middling. Not quite fast enough to fully benefit from the Tornadus Tier 1 pick and things like the Mudsdale, but I think the Trick Room option is pretty good. There's just not really much redirection or fake out support to facilitate getting it up. So those were my real only complaints with this one, is the lack of a good way to ensure Trick Room going up, and the speeds just being a little awkward on some things. Ted.
Huge. I have your team at number 10 on my list. Again, as a really strong a ring core. Again with Tornadus Eye and Mudsdale, you could utilize Swagger with Own Tempo and Mudsdale, and then Dynamax it and then hit really hard with either Max Geo Swag or Max Rockfall or Max Ground. Again, two strong Trick Room setters in Bronzong and Aromatisse. Now I know they're fairly slow, but they're extremely bulky tier setters, so you can most likely live a hit and set up that Trick Room for teammates. Chinchino, a little bit problematic for me. I never really seen Chichinho in doubles. I've seen it in singles before, but if you were to utilize it in doubles, I would most likely see Skill Link and then maybe run a choice banded set and just go to town with it and hit really hard with a tail slap, bullet seed, rock blast, those multi hitting moves, and just deal massive amount of damage. I like that Lemon pick having provided intimidate support for the rest of your team who can't really take strong physical moves. Gmax Orbital setting up that Gmax Grav attack and setting up that automatic gravity and allowing most of your mons to hit some flying or levitating mons with ground moves with Mudsdale. Um, Definitely, I could see that happening. And yeah, overall, I think you have a really very long team, but I placed you really low, just due to Genshinho being that slightly problematic mon on the team.
Interesting. Gumi.
So, I have the California Crowbats at number 1. So I was doing like a bit of a score when I was doing my rankings. So your score was like at 9.5. So I'm gonna start out by saying I want some redirection.
Me too.
After this video, I suggest just going for Togepi. Or something like that, right? Something that can really support your team when it comes to that. Other than that, this team is insane. I love it. I love Tornadus. I love Tornadus with Rain. I love Tornadus with an own tempo user. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. I love your Trick Room. I think it's good. The better sweeper would be nice, but I still think it's a great team. Got a lot of versatility. Really like this team. Really like it. So props to you on that. I think it is the best team. I would take this team any day of the week. Love it.
Interesting. Beej.
I'll give you my take on picks and stuff real quick. I've got myself honestly at number 6. I'd have myself higher if I had good redirection and good fake out. Because I didn't get them early, I'm going to settle for Togepi and did the Litten for War Turtle. Just to have a little bit more bulk down there. Other things. I just was not impressed with my initial panic Litten pick after my tier 4s got sniped. But I knew coming into the draft that I wanted Tornadus Mud. It seemed really versatile, really cool. A lot of things to do with it, and just a solid start to a draft. So that's what I ended up going with. I needed to make sure I had a good Trick Room mode, so I ended up picking Aromatisse fairly towards the middle of the draft, because I think it's one of the better low tier setters. Picked Rotom Heat Up because right next to Tornadus for some Disc Quake stuff is a lot of fun. The Rain Core was just kind of an accidental fall in once I realized Tornadus could Prankster Rain Dance. Give me a little bit of weather control, and I really like Kingdra with how few weeks it has. I think team has chops. I wish I had better fake out user. Just a little hesitant to go in on Togepi there. Something's going to happen. I see myself making some trades very early in this, trying to round out. I'm pretty happy with my draft overall.
Fair enough. Let's take a look at the next one. We have got the 49 San Francisco Sand Tombs. This is one that I think we were fairly divided on as well. I've got them fairly high. I've got them at number 4. I think Dragonite plus Colossal is very, very strong. Just because you can't fake out the Dragonite to prevent him from getting the Aqua Jet off. You can put safety goggles on him so he doesn't get redirected by Rage Powder. So, I mean, the only thing that you can really do to stop him from setting up the Colossal is have an actual follow me user, and there's not that many of them, especially since he took one. So I think him getting Colossal off and doing a lot of work with it is very, very likely. I also like the Clefairy to help get Trick Room up. He's got Musharna, which in my opinion is the best Trick Room setter that's not a tier 1. Absolutely love Musharna. He's got Escavalier to be a great Trick Room sweeper. He's going to bring probably the same 6 Mons every time, but that's okay if you're winning with those 6 Mons. So I think his team is fantastic. I'm terrified to face it. I think it's going to be very, very good. Ted.
Again, it's one of those teams that I had extremely much trouble placing. The amount due to the amount of power that they have and a decent amount of bulk they have to their team. So I placed them at number 14. Now I understand the G-Max Cole and the Dragonite is extremely good combo. I've seen that on the ladder recently, more often than none. Now I know it can run inner focus. However, I think most of the time it may be running multi-scale just to live a nice or a dragon type attack and take those hits if you were running an offensive set on it, either with a weakness policy or life orb set. Um, with his Rusbus team, Escavalier, really good mon in Trick Room, especially when its Dynamax hits really hard. Sharna, one of the bulkier psychic type mons out there in tier 3, can live a hit, set up Trick Room, and can do a decent amount of damage with psychic and other moves. Double, it's one of those picks that's questionable. I'm not so sure how he's been able to utilize the double. It's decent in singles, but not so much in doubles. Yeah, it's just one of those awkward picks for me. Poltergeist, really one of those really good ghost type mons, having weak armor and running weakness policy on it, and then just go to town with it with stored power or Shadow Ball to hit really hard. Clefairy, one of the best redirectors in the game. having EV Light to tank a couple of hits, or even when Bobby Berry to survive a steel type attack. Really good. Um, it's just one of those better redirectors out there. And even though I have it really low, I would like to place it higher. It's just that some of those picks are really questionable, so I had them at number 15.
Yeah, I think his 6 top picks are enough to make up for the couple questionable, though. Gumi, what do you think? Gumi? Did we lose Gumi?
Here for a little bit.
Beach.
So I've got the down here at number 11. I think going back to personal preferences of classic ladder combos you see like Weezing Gigas, they're just a little bit easier to work around in draft format that they're coming for you. Colossal is strong, Colossal potent, and it will do colossal things. But if that's not good, that puts you in a little bit of a bind. Other mode that he has scares me a little bit is dominant in room. Cavalier is fantastic. Masharna being the best setter and holding its own pretty well. He cannot do the colossal things and just put it in trick room. It's very modular, very threatening, and he's got a little bit of dynamics. What I'm going to ding him on here is that his team is overall very slow. If he doesn't end up getting trick room up, if Unpheasant down there at the bottom is able to get Tailwind up, which I don't think it will be able to do consistently, it's going to hurt him a little bit. That being said, there are some synergy and a whole lot of coverage. Also, like, I love Clefairy. I think this is a fantastic team for it, and it's exciting. So we'll see. We'll probably reevaluate this entire list here and see.
All right. Gumi, we're still on the Colossal team.
Okay.
So go right ahead.
Yeah, so I like this team a lot. My problem is Colossal. I don't like Colossal. The one draft league I went with Colossal, but I still hate it. Don't think it's good. Don't think it's gonna draft. Taylor was talking about Dragon Knight, and I feel like Dragon Knight is such a good draft mon, such an underrated draft mon. But it does so much more without Colossal than it does with. So I like this team. There's a couple of weaknesses, but I don't like Colossal. So that's honestly my thoughts.
Fair enough. Let's take a
Side
look.
note, I fully expect that Dragonite other than Colossal support sometime.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Ted, looks like we've got your team next here. So
Yeah.
I have got you at number 10. Looking at the team here, you've got a lot of things that I like. I like the Naganadel a lot. I like Volcarona. Overall, I think there's just not enough offense. Naganadel is going to be your prime source of offense. Blastoise is, pretty good, but doesn't have a super high special attack stat. Volcarona is pretty good, but it's really squishy. Other than that, you've got a couple setup things in the Registeel, but that's my biggest complaint is there's just not enough sweepers on this team. So I've got you at 10 because of that. Ted.
I've actually placed myself at really low. I placed myself at 11. I just moved myself up one spot when adjusting my list. Um, Again, like you said, I have really a good amount of hard hitting mons. Volcarena being able to hit hard also gets rage power for redirection if I wanted to. Registeel, it's really hard on both sides, on the physical and special side. Um, Licky Licky, I've used before. Uh, one of not extremely bulky, but fairly bulky mon, taking some of those hits and hitting hard back. Um, yeah, those are the only mons that I feel like on my team I can hit really hard. In terms of support, with Noctel and Claydol. Feel like I could have gotten better mons out of them, but just due to that, my points being less, um, those are the best options I could have gone with in Noctel and Claydol. Again, Nagandel, but my only fast mon. I wanted to get other fast mons just to counteract my low speed on my team. But again, my GMAX Blastoise taking 50 points away from my budget kind of hurt me in the long run. So Naganagal being my only high speed mon is going to be a problem in the future. But however, I feel like I can cover that and find some success in this league. And yeah, honestly, I think after the end of the draft, I felt pretty good about this team and about myself and how I planned it out.
Fair enough. Gumi.
Yeah, so I like this team a lot. I think it has a lot of good options. Would like stronger trick room. But other than that, I think I agree with Conan. It's not that you don't have offense, it's that you don't have incredibly strong offense. So, for example, I mean, like looking at Beach, for example, his team's got, Kingdra, right, with Rain. So he can just blast things. So you have Mons like Blastoise that can put some offense up. You got Mons like Licky Licky, but you don't have something that can just blast things whenever it wants. And so I think that's probably the biggest problem with your team. Um, you just don't have things that just go like burr, So I still think you have a good team. I put you at 7, so definitely still a really good team. But I think that's what you would want to trade for if you could.
Beach.
Yeah, I've got you down here at 13. Down here, like the margins were incredibly slim. It's going to be a little bit of an issue. It looks like everything's pretty middling except for that Naganadel and Volcarona. Grimstone, can't sing enough praises about it. It can do offense. It can do support and hacks and all the good things. Set it up to next to Licky Licky, you get the same own tempo shenanigans I'm trying to pull off. I think what you need a little bit more of is just a little bit better of a redirector because it's like you've got a ton of ones that are just wanting to set up in front of the opponent without enough support to do so. Blastoise gets off a shell smack and go burr. Gonadel gets off a nasty spot, it goes burr, and then just pulls. Licky Licky can go for belly drum. Registeel for iron defense. Just need a way to be able to do it a little more consistently in my book. The only other thing that I had a little bit was there just don't seem to be enough partners for that Riolu. Receive coaching. Why? Like it's gonna do the rest of its support things just fine. But we want Riolu for coaching mode. Other than that, your team's bulky. If you set up, you can do offense. A good type coverage. It's just a couple of things I would want to see.
Uh, Let me say one more thing. I didn't really say much about Riolu just because I have other plans with it. So that's why I didn't say a lot with Riolu, just because I have more plans with it in the future.
You are trying to keep the tech down low.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, let's go ahead and jump to the next one here. Our next team is the Corona Volcaronas, and this is another one that we were a little divided on.
Yay.
To me, this is the best draft in the league. I am a huge Glastrier fan. The only league I've ever won, I was 100% carried by Glastrier. He's currently carrying me in another one of my leagues. I think he's fantastic. I think there's a great way to set him up with Indeedee Hat. You've got your blocking fake out, your can redirect, your chances of getting Trick Room up are very high. And then you can either, do hat things, or you can bring in glass. You can bring in glass late game. I can't say enough about how much I think Glacier can carry a team. Put that next to the fact that you also have Palosan plus Excelgor, which is a completely different prep than what you would do for the Trick Room stuff, and you can set that up and sweep with the Palosan. I think Butterfree can do some interesting things. I think Hitmonchan is one of the best tier 4s out there. He also got Fungus, which Trick Room putting things to sleep can win you games easy. I think top to bottom this team is just fantastic. I didn't even talk about Scrafty. Great intimidate, slow, fake out. He's fantastic mon. I think this team is absolutely great, and I am terrified to play against it. Ted, you had a similar opinion on it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. His team, this person's team has really good, have high amounts of offense, a good amount of redirection, uh, really good trick room, and other offensive options that he can utilize. And so I place him at number 2 on my list. Again, I've used Glacier as well in on ladder. It's really strong under Trick Room. Can have a Life Orb or Assault Vest or Weakness Policy, um, just to dish out massive amount of damage and do its job is really frightening. Having 2 redirections in Fungus and Butterfree, both having Rage Powder. Again, I mean, even though they can redirect stuff, I felt like on the opposing team you can just slap on safety goggles and ignore Rage Powder, which could be problematic if you were to add a Follow Me Mon in the future. Um, Indeedee and Hat really strong under oh, Psychic Terrain. Uh, really good option as well. Again, Silgar and Palosan, an option I've used before in draft and on ladder before. Um, Setting up weakest policy and then getting that a water compaction boost in the defense and dynamaxing it. And my god, it's really strong, can hit hard. And so this is one of the stronger teams in the draft, so I have them at number 2.
And Gumi, you had a totally different opinion. Let's hear what you think.
Yeah, so I've been thinking a lot about this team. Because me and Connor, we were talking DMs, and he's like, "Man, I totally disagree with you." So I will say, I think when looking at this team, I disregarded how strong Indeedee had a winning Glacier is. So I don't believe that my ranking that I gave the Volcaronas is accurate, which was number 14. However, for me to think that this is a top 5 team or, 7 or 8 range, I mean, he doesn't have the cores I'm looking for, Fantasy or Firewater Grass. His Tailwind mode, like his fast mode, is just non-existent. I mean, I'm really not a fan of Justin Talion as your fast mode. So I just feel like this is a team where, yes, it's going to be kind of hard to prep for because he just has a lot of good Trick Room options. But if you get Trick Room figured out, there's not that much he can do. So that's my problem with this team. Again, I don't think 14 is a good ranking, and so I apologize on that part. But even then, I'm not sure how much higher I'd put him.
Fair enough. Beach.
I would put him at number 1. This team hosts. First off, best Trick Room team format. Not just because that classic 3-mon core of Hatterene and Castrier. They're all pretty dang good outside of Trick Room. Best redirection, fantastic fake out, intimidate from Scrafty. Palosan Excelgor, what can I say that hasn't been said already? Let me tell you why I love this. love this because I think Glastrier is a Gigas that needs less setup. Just gets to keep going with, and I don't know what people are going to be able to do about it other than try and hit a will-o-wisp on it. Yeah, like I can't say more that's been said. He's fantastic. I'm so scared.
Yep.
Fair.
Completely agree. Next, we've got my team, Tulsa Drovers. I did a whole video talking about my team, so I won't go into it too terribly hard, but I feel like I grabbed two things that were moved to tier 2s that I feel like should have stayed tier 1s, and I got something that is a tier 3 that I should have felt like should have been a tier 2. So I feel like I got some pretty good steals in this draft. I think Arcanine is one of the best support. I mean, it's basically faster Incineroar that's not weak to fighting. You've got Dragapult that can be support, it can be offense, it can beat up the Arcanine, it can do anything I need it to do. Can hold weakness policy and be quick attacked by Sylveon. I've got Fake Out, I've got what I feel like is a pretty good weather mode. I've got Tailwind, I've got Trick Room. I do feel like I could definitely have better Trick Room sweepers. Really, the only things that I have Trick Room are my Copper my Laleep, and kind of Tyranitar. But I feel like I've got enough good options to deny Trick Room that I'm not as concerned about it. Ted, I put myself at number 2. Ted, you had me a lot lower. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I had you at number 9. I do agree with you that your team is really strong. You have a strong trick mode, having a Caparaja, um, one of your your slowest mon on the team. Um, I feel like choosing it as a GMAX is kind of not beneficial for you. I feel like you could utilize more of a regular Caparaja and getting that defensive boost when Dynamax.
I just picked it for
That's
the.
all. That's
I just picked it for
yeah.
the points.
Okay, yeah. But that's my only problem with Caparaja. Dragapult, really good attacker. I can either run it as a physical. You can actually run many different sets on. You can run a physical set, special set, or support set on it. So I think overall Dragapult is one of your better picks. Having Sandcore with Tyranitar and Extra Drill, is one of the stronger cores out there. Extra Drill can hit really hard. With Sand Rush or Mold Breaker. With Mold Breaker, you can hit um, mons with Levitate, and with the Earthquake, and dish out massive amount of damage. Same with Tyranitar. You can run a support set on Tyranitar, or you can run a special or physical set on Tyranitar and still do massive amount of damage. Um, same with Sylveon. Um, can be a support mon, but I will most interesting to see it more utilized as an attacker with voice specs and hyper voicing everything. Lily, I really like the Lily pick. Um, Having a Storm Drain to redirect those water moves from your Sand Core is really good, and Dynamaxing it and just hit a max Rockfall and do damage is also really good.
Gumi.
Yeah, so I think this team is insane. Really strong team. I don't know how much else I can say about it. There are two things though.
Oh.
I think that
Yeah,
Caparaja
pretty good.
is an insane mod. And I don't believe it belongs in tier 3 Gmax. So I was incredibly tempted to get Caparaja Gmax. And I think you'll be surprised with how good it actually is. One of the reasons I got it was because of how good I felt it was. I think it's an insane mod. I really, really do. So I'm excited to see how we use it. Because I do think that it's so underrated. And I want people to finally see Caparaja does not belong in tier 3. Other than that, yeah, I think this team's great. It's super scary. you have a lot of just solid mons on top, and I think you have a really solid team. So I put you at number 2.
And Beach.
Gumi, I don't know how much help you're going to have making Copperage look good, because there's stiff competition on this, bringing a 6 each week. Whew. I've got Tulsa up here at number 2, just a little bit, very slim margin below Corona, just based on like raw power level. As far as balance goes, I think Tulsa has probably the best team right now.
Yeah.
At least in our Sinnoh division. Now, you've got fantastic type coverage. You went into a lot of different mini strats and synergies or breakdown video, including some Sylveon Pixelate weakness policy. Are able to dart around that tier list all draft, pick up all of the big valuable picks. Lileep's going to be one of the support mons for tier 4 that ever hoped for. Kuno Galar, like to control, to ward off intimidates that might otherwise hamper. Solid. It's a good draft overall, and I think I end up going far.
I do want to add one thing before we move on. I'm a big fan of Lileep. I forgot you had it, but is insane mon is really good on your team. I have a Lileep sweep I did once in the league, and it's a really good mon, and I think it's underrated. With Eviolite, it has like 150 defenses, so it's a really good mon, and I think it's just one of those things where you have a good draft in your top, but you also have a lot of good mons in your bottom. So props to you. I just want to add that thing about Lileep because I love Lileep.
Teach me the ways of your Lileep sweep. I'll need to know. All right, moving on.
I could gladly tell you the secret. I know all.
Finally, we have got the terrorizing Tricos. Man, I've been looking to try to find something a little more positive to say about this team, but there's so much grass weakness. They've got 5 water types. Sorry. So one grass or electric mon is gonna not be a good day for them. They got Gmax Charizard, but nothing really to enable it with. I like the Amoonguss pick. I love Amoonguss. I've had him on one of my drafts before, and I would kill to have him again. And I feel like Kartana's good, but not fantastic. I feel like he's a little overrated. Just top to bottom, I don't think that there's much, just a ton going for this one. I'd love to be proven wrong, but Ted, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Even though I placed him quite high at let me see,
12.
number 12. Yeah. Um, this team could definitely have some potential. Again, like you mentioned, his grass weakness is extremely high with Gastrodon, Barraskewda, Seeking, and Wailord. It's just going to put a big dent in this team, and it's going to be a definite immediate problem, depending on who he's facing week 1. Again, he has some strong usage and Lapras potentially, Mungus for redirection, and Jumex Charizard in Sun with solar power can hit really hard with life orbs in it. Again, Blissey, it's just one of those weird picks. Like you'd never use Blissey or Transient doubles as their single mons, and they should stay single mons in my opinion. Wailord, interesting. I've seen Wailord before in draft as a niche pick. So I'm interested in seeing what he's going to do with that. Kadabra, then his Trick Room kind of pretty low. I feel like he could choose something better than Kadabra. And again, Cortana is quite overrated. That double weakness to fire is going to be a problem and could instantly die if it doesn't have a focus sash on that. But yeah, I think overall it's fairly good, but there's just too many weaknesses to this team.
Oh, fair enough. Gumi.
So here's just I think the biggest problem with this team. Um, the first thing is you have 5 waters and a storm drain user, and the second thing is you have a rain team with Charizard Gmax. The problems there are with how this league is formatted for Gmax mons. If you're gonna get a tier 1, you have to really be able to use it to its maximum potential. I really like Charizard Gmax, but with how his team is set up, it just doesn't fit. So if I'm given this team and I'm like, okay, you have to make playoffs with this, what I would do is I would trade your Gmax and I would either get rid of 3 or 4 water types and keep Gastrodon, or get rid of Gastrodon and 1 or 2 water types. And then on top of that, I don't like Kartana as a mon, even on a rain team. He doesn't even have a rain setter, which is a problem. So I would say if you're gonna commit to rain, get rid of Charizard, get a get a mon that can set up rain, and just get rid of some of those water weaknesses. Um, if you don't want to commit to a rain team, then get rid of some of your water type mons, and you could even potentially change to a sun team if you want to. But get rid of that Kartana, get rid of some of your water mons. So those are my thoughts. I put them last at number 16. But I think if he really wants to make this team work, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, totally agree. Beach.
Yeah, I also have the traits down here at number 6. Just really hard to pull anything off, and he's got such a prevalent weakness. There's just enough odd picks in here that I'm not sure exactly what I'd end up doing with it. Just regular Dynamax Lapras down there at the bottom, which I just don't think is doing quite enough on its own. The Lapras to set up screens, be Parish Song game, and it's just doing one of those things well. To his credit, does have a tier going on here. A few things up in the 130s, a couple things in the 100s. No real great way to control it. I don't know. There's just this team is lacking a few trades. I could feel like end up making up something, but right now it's just in a pretty weak spot right now.
Yeah, I would agree. So that wraps up the teams. I'm going to click through here just so each of our tier lists show up on the video if people want to screenshot them and see exactly where we put each team. Any final thoughts, guys?
Really excited for this league to start, and I hope everyone has a good season.
I am too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, same. First time commander in the UGA. Can't wait to compete and have a chance getting into getting a playoff spot and chance of succeeding. Yeah, and can't wait to face other competitors that also have a chance to do that as well.
Absolutely. This is my first season in the UGA. I'm excited. It's a huge league. I'm excited. From what I understand, competition is going to be super stiff, so I'm excited
Yep.
about that. I know Qdell is going to be gunning for me. I know he wants that revenge, so hopefully I get to play him at least once. So other than that, I think that top to bottom, we've got a lot of good teams. I think that there's going to be a lot of stiff competition to make it to the playoffs, and I just hope that I'm one of them. So I appreciate you guys coming out. I appreciate your time. I think this is going to be a great video. We'll have it up here in just a little while, guys. And do you guys have YouTube channels? Or
Yes, I do.
Shout out. Go ahead.
Subscribe to the Video Studios. I post some content sometimes. So far, I only posted draft videos, so you may see some content coming up really soon.
Awesome. Guys, make sure you like and subscribe my channel. All the UGA games that I play will be on there, as well as my other 2 draft leagues that I'm in. So make sure you check out. Lots of content coming. Send me your YouTube, and I'll link it in this one. And guys, until next time, I appreciate it. Take it easy.
Yep. See ya. Bye.
Yeah.